Well, you may have heard that over the weekend, Conservative Party leader Eric Duhem pulled a new promise out of his bag, this one to do with the SAQ. And the promise, at least what he's pledging now, is liberate wine. That's right. He wants to be able for you, if you live in this province, to be able to go buy your wine anywhere, but not necessarily directly from the SAQ. So local producers, maybe other countries want to have their wines here. He says, look, this is a monopoly. We appreciate that it is. There ought to be a better way, and that better way is to privatize some sales and allow you to buy your booze that way. Well, in doing a little bit of quick research on this, it seems to me Alberta is the only province in the country that actually does this, right? They've privatized their liquor industry.
And it's been so since the 90s.
Other U.S. states, by the way, already offer this. If you've ever been to the States, you can actually walk into a drugstore and buy wines and spirits as well, right? Just right off the shelf.
Here in Quebec, you can buy wine at the dépanneur or at the grocery store. It's just, and beer, but it's crummy wine.
What she means to say, it's somewhat less expensive.
The beer is good.
But the question then becomes, what about this idea of privatizing the government's liquor monopoly? So it's interesting because Vancouver right now, out in BC, going through something like this. Martyn Brown is a former BC Premier. Gordon Campbell's, he is Gordon Campbell's, or was, long-serving chief of staff. So, Mr. Brown, you're in a position to kind of maybe shed some light on this. And I guess the first question is it fair to just simply say, is it a good idea or a bad idea based on what you've seen there?
Well, actually, for many years, since we were in government, BC Liberals, back in 2001, 2002, we've had privatized sales of wine, beer, and spirits, and so it's a mixture in BC of public and private. And in BC, we've had they started off as we had wine stores that could only sell wine, but they were all international wines and domestic wines as well. And then liquor stores and now in BC, of course, you can buy wine and beer in several grocery stores that have store-in-store models. But yeah, the number of private liquor stores that we have in BC that can sell either wine alone or wine and spirits is several hundred, double the number of government liquor stores.
And so, Mr. Brown, my father and my stepmom live in British Columbia, and when I'm out there visiting, I'm kind of stunned at the price of wine and beer. It's very high. Is the idea here that in privatizing it, it would drive down the price and take away the monopoly?
No, just the opposite. No, that's one of the biggest misnomers, I think. What privatizing did, like in British Columbia, we kept a mixed model, which is what they're recommending now, or did recommend back in 2019 in Ontario. I haven't quite moved to it yet, but it's a mixed model where we have the government monopoly stores, which are way better now. They've got refrigerated products. They're open on 7 days a week, open late hours, all that kind of stuff, just like the private stores. But to get there, what happened was, the private liquor stores, initially they had to buy from our liquor distribution branch, which is a Crown entity, at a higher price than the liquor stores. And over time, of course, competition kicks in and they start whining and saying, we got to buy at the same price as the government. And now even restaurants and bars and pubs buy at the same price. They used to pay the full retail price. So what's happened is the amount of money that goes to the provincial treasury is less theoretically than it should be. We're spending a lot. We're collecting a lot less revenue from those private liquor stores because we're selling to everybody, including the government stores, at exactly the same wholesale price. And of course, the private stores, while there's many more of them, they don't have as good selection nearly as much. They don't have as cheap prices as the government stores because they have to make a profit. And on top of that, they pay their workers much lower wages than the government stores. So I guess for the people of Quebec, if your main aim is to have more access to wine or other liquor products, if it expands, that's great. But just know it's going to mean lower wages for those private workers, and it's going to mean less revenue for government because over time the pressure will build to sell to those stores at the same price as the government is selling it for.
So my question would be on the less revenue side, on that component, if the government is collecting tax on every bottle that's sold, whether it's private or through their own stores, doesn't that at the end come out to the same amount of money, or maybe even more, because some of these people are buying at non-government controlled stores? Government's collecting money on every bottle they sell.
Yeah, no, it means that there is more liquor sold. So that's the upside for the taxpayers, is that you know, if your goal is to increase volume of alcohol sales, whether it's wine through private stores like you're talking about, or everything as we've seen in BC, then the volume will go up because there's way more access to it, right? You can buy it all over the place now. You don't have to go to specific government liquor stores. But the price that those companies are paying to buy their liquor from the government, because it's only the government that distributes it in every province, even in Alberta. You know, they privatize that distribution function through a contract, but the monopoly still retains with the Alberta government. So the price of selling to those private retailers from the government goes down, and that means the government's profit on that portion of the market goes down. But greater volume means that even with a smaller margin, it's still selling more alcohol and getting tax on that, and it's getting income tax too on the wages it pays to private employees.
So this is not clearly, as you're describing it, a win-win or a win-lose either, to privatize some of the business. It's not a matter of let's do away with the province's, hold on this with the monopoly. It's, can we compete on the same playing field as the government, and is that better for the public? What's the answer to that?
Yeah, well, I think that most of the public sector unions don't like it, of course, because it means that the pressure is lower wages from the private sector that aren't unionized by and large, and that's not good for union workers' wages. But for consumers, if your only interest is saying where can I buy a bottle of good wine, instead of having fewer stores, you have many more stores, and you're supporting lower paying jobs. You're supporting private profits to do that. Don't forget, they have to make big capital investments to open those stores and maintain their products and all that. So overall, having a mixed model like we have in BC and like Ontario's considering is a good thing, I think. From the sounds of what you're describing in Quebec, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have private wine sales as an option. But just know that the amount of profit that the government's going to make on that will all depend on how much wine is sold, and there are downsides, social repercussions as well.
Exactly,
as we've known.
There is that, right? That social repercussion angle, which we talked about just a week or so ago with recommendations now that people drink less. And you've described a situation where if you have it in the private sector, you end up selling more wine. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you show any concern.
What I would love some clarity on, Mr. Brown, is something that's going on in BC, which is rationing of products. So you're only going to be allowed to have 3 products on any given day, to purchase 3 products. Could you quickly fill us in on that?
Oh no, that was because there was there had been a strike, which is right now they're back at the bargaining table. But the union basically was striking the distribution branch, which supplies all the liquor across the province to bars, restaurants, pubs, and private liquor stores.
Okay.
And so they were trying to ration it because there was no liquor going out of the warehouses even to the government stores. That's done though. That's over with right now. They're at the bargaining table.
And do you think there's a concern, as I just said, with respect to social acceptability of something like this? Is that even a government thought?
Well, it should be, because that was the whole basis for having government monopolies in Canada in the first place. There are real social repercussions for having too much alcohol out there, and especially when you have private retailers that are selling it at trying to sell it as close to cost as they can to get more sales and the like. The partnerships with the private, wineries, if you like, and distributors and the like. There's questions there around potential conflicts of interest, what brands and things they're carrying. But the direction generally in North America and Canada is more choice and greater competition. And certainly what that has done is made our government government liquor stores that sell everything, beer, wine, and spirits, way better. They're way more competitive. They operate like private stores in terms of customer satisfaction. But look, your SAQ has very high customer satisfaction ratings already. So if you're not desperate for more places to buy your wine, why would you do that? Because you're actually going to shoot yourself
There you
in the
go.
foot in the terms of revenue.
Excellent point.
Yeah,
Mr. Brown, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
All righty. Take care.
Martyn Brown, former Chief of Staff to the Premier of BC. Why would you shoot yourself in the foot? That's an interesting
clear.
thing that he said right at the end there, right?
Agreed.
Interesting to check with Eric Duhem on that one day.